If you're working long hours, constantly tired, your workouts are inconsistent, and your health reports are slowly getting worse yet, you're giving up unwillingly, this episode is for you. Today I'm joined by Sanya, who is an ISSA and INFS certified nutritionist and fitness coach. She works specifically with Indian corporate professionals and focuses on fixing what she calls as a lifestyle out of rhythm. Things like poor sleep, bad nutrition, and lack of recovery. Founder of Corporate Athlete Method, which is designed to help busy professionals identify these patterns and fix them systematically. Sanya, it's a delight to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me, Vinod. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. This is the conversation I think I have every single day in my DMs or on my client calls or just posting about it online, right? And this is what I just talk about every single day of my life. And so I think thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
I I think what's fascinating is the shine in your eyes when you say that you love doing it. It's quite apparent, even for me and for the audience. Great. It's going to be a wonderful discussion. I think just to give a little bit of context, I read some of your tweets last month and I couldn't resist but ping you because it was on the point and communicated the message very directly to the type of people who are potentially affected by this, right? So, specifically, the ones that I read was the why do couples gain weight after marriage, where you mentioned about the importance of both of them sitting together and talking to themselves about how they feel about their bodies. I think that's what we'll go
Correct.
deeper into today. But
Correct.
before getting into that, let's start with the basics. I'll jump right in to make best use of your time. Cool. So, what led you to focus specifically on corporate professionals instead of going generic?
Correct. So, Vinod, when I started coaching people about 4.5 years ago, I was actually just coaching everyone, right? Homemakers, sometimes students, corporate professionals, women, homemakers, again, like I said, right? I was just coaching every single person. And then there was this very one common pattern I would always see, which was downhill, which was for Indian corporate professionals. And somehow they were the people with the most resources. They would have more money, they would have more smartwatches, more better things to eat, more better options for themselves, right? And but again, they would still have the scariest health in terms of their blood work, in terms of again how they're approaching work, their output towards work, their how their energy is, how their sleep is, what they're giving to their family. And so that one common pattern just led me to build something that would specifically help those people, because I realized that okay, whatever common or traditional fitness advice that we have as to go to the gym, wake up at 5 a.m., meal prep, eat 100 grams of protein will not work for somebody who's like going to Bombay and Bangalore back and forth and their body is out of rhythm, right? So that is what led me to specifically, build around this topic. So I guess, yeah, that's what.
Got it. Did you also have to change the way you approach fitness to these target audiences as you switched
Mm,
from the
yeah,
generic to the
100.
corporate? Yeah,
100%, 100%. So when I would train somebody who has their life together, it would definitely be more of like aesthetic goals as to, oh, okay, you have to do like push-ups, you have to do pull-ups, you have to build like aesthetic goals gradually, go a level up in terms of your aesthetic strength and, eat 200 grams of protein. And this is how you're supposed to, approach your nutrition, and everything would be like what we call perfect one, versus when I would work with a busy working professional, I would start with, again, first managing their energy, because of course they are giving most of their time to their work, and most of the clients that I deal with are like founders, again, HR and people who are managing big teams, right? So you best believe they're not worried about having a big bicep, but worried about, giving most to their work. So I would start with, fixing their sleep, fixing their energy, their blood work, and then eventually coming to fixing their nutrition and workout, again, something that would fix, fit into their lives. So that's how I approach like a generic person versus when I'm dealing with my ideal client. So yeah, that's about that.
I think that makes a lot of sense because, yeah, you need to horses for the courses, right? So, one of
Mhm.
the things I remembered very clearly, Sanya, was that when we chatted on Twitter, you gave a very interesting reason for you to even start this, whether it's for generic or corporate professionals. You said
Mhm.
you saw flyers which had repeated patterns, consistent patterns, where you realize that something wasn't random. So the ones you mentioned was, about skincare, about, blood work, or about, something on the beauty aspect, which was
Mhm.
targeting all this maybe potentially insecure middle class people, both men and women. And you said this wasn't random but systemic. And you also said most of them had no idea that all of these things were connected and correlated. What did you mean by that?
So, okay, let's talk about a woman first, right? At 19, they're mostly the periods, the cycles are irregular. Then eventually we move to age 23, they're mostly diagnosed with PCOS, right? Which is also, again, the periods are irregular, they're gaining weight, facial hair, sleep is irregular, hair is falling, which is also now then eventually connected with, getting diagnosed with thyroid at the age 26, right? Which again, same symptoms, again, irregular periods, hair falling, acne on skin, facial hair, mood swings, sleep is bad. And then eventually, they get married, and then, they have fertility issues around the age of 32, about which now suddenly everyone is worried. If nobody was worried when they had like PCOS, they were like, oh, Tyronorm and metmorphin, these kinds of medicine is your answer, lose weight. They go to the doctor. They will always have this generic advice, oh, lose weight. But then when they have fertility issues and then can't, difficulties in having kids in the future, all of that, then suddenly everyone is worried. And that is also where it starts for men. I mean, they would get out of college and then, start looking for a job, start working, belly fat is there, they would ignore it, alcohol with friends, and then they would get married, and then again, taking care of their family, taking care of their work, but never taking care of themselves. And then all of that just sort of compounds, and then they're in a situation where now they don't know, it's a spiral, they don't know how to kind of get out of it, right? And they just it that is something that just did not start at the age of 30 or 32. It started when they were young, but they just ignored it, and now it has compounded to a stage where they're lost, they don't know what to do about it, or they don't know where to start, because so much has happened in terms of work, life, family. They don't know that, oh, now should I go, would it be selfish if I go and give some time to my health? Would it be, do I start with blood work, do I start with working out, do I start with fixing sleep? I don't know where to start. But it just did not start now, it started very early on, but it has just now compounded to a point where now you don't know what to do. So that is what I meant by that.
Got it. And if I kind of understood you right, this is typically in the 20s to maybe the 20s in which
Yes.
they compound, or let's say go into the rabbit hole. And then,
Early 20s, 22, 23 is when all of it starts.
and by what age do you think both men and women realize that they've gone a little too deep into the rabbit hole and that they need to climb back?
Mostly 34, 35. And if
Mm-hmm.
they're working a lot and if they've ignored it too much, I also speak with people who are in their 40s, 45, and in fact 50. So, but to answer your
Mm-hmm.
question, yes, 34 is when it starts, when they start realizing that, okay, no, if it goes on like that, I will not end up in a good place in future.
Got it. I think we'll go deeper into that in a bit. So specifically, I was very curious as to the name of the startup that you have, corporate athlete method.
Mhm,
It's a very interesting term because normally I don't come across the word athlete. You would say
mhm.
corporate fitness or something very similar. What does it mean to you? Do you really want them to be an athlete? What does it mean?
Correct. Correct. So, when I say corporate athlete, Vinod, I don't mean that I would want them to train, like an athlete, go to the gym at 5 a.m. and then train all day and then, just eat protein all day. But in this case, oh, they might, who knows, never say never, right? If they might, right? But in this case, their sport is their career. Their sport is their family. Because when I speak to these people, all they tell me is that, I want to be a role model for my kids. I want to be able to take better care of my family. I want to give more of my output, in the kind of work that I'm doing. When I'm going to work, I want to be able to focus more, and just take care of myself and just do things that I like doing when I was young. When I was in my 20s, I used to play maybe cricket, squash, but right now I don't even have the energy to like come home and like play with my kid, let alone playing cricket or squash. And then I was speaking this to this man just yesterday, and then he was just like, by the end of the day when I'm done with work, I can't even talk to my wife. Like I'm just laying dead on the bed. Like I just immediately go to sleep. Right. And he used those words, that I'm just laying dead on the bed. Right. So in this case, I'm not training them to like play a sport or something, but in this case, their sport is their career and their family, and actually being a good role model to their children. So that is what I mean when I say the Indian corporate athlete.
Got it. So you let them choose the sport that they are interested in, and you help them go into that direction, whether it's
Correct.
family or career or focus.
Correct.
Got
Makes
it.
sense. Yeah.
Great. I think since that's the focus of the segment that you work on, let's start with what some basic questions, Sanya.
Mhm.
What are the most common issues you see in the Indian corporate professional today? I mean, the reason I'm asking this is obviously you're trying to solve a problem for the busy corporate professional
Mhm.
and trying him to focus on himself and his family or career, or a combination of that, right?
Correct.
What's the most
So,
common issues that you see?
okay. Starting with men, it's mostly belly fat. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
low energy. Sometimes they wake up. Sleep is the biggest issue, and also something that I solve first when they come to me, because sleep is just related to so many things in terms of nutrition and work, in terms of your workouts, in terms of how you show up to work, in terms of how your energy is. So sleep is definitely messed up, I would say, in 90% of the men. Again, belly fat, like I said, HbA1c, the blood work, cholesterol, because since we live in India, vitamin D is a problem. All of us are mostly vegetarians, or even
Mm-hmm.
if we eat chicken, we don't eat that much, or we don't eat the right amount of chicken to be able to fulfill the vitamin B12 thing. So that is there. So definitely energy, sleep, belly fat. In women, it's mostly PCOS, thyroid, iron levels in Indian women are very low. Again, Indian women also sometimes have a hard time figuring out a routine for themselves, because they're just doing so much. Like they wake up, they have to take care of the kids, they have to take care of their husbands, they have to take care of their in-laws, they have to go to work. So again, belly fat and weight gain, definitely sure, but also women have automatically by default have less strength, so they're also kind of sometimes scared to go to the gym, so they would just mostly immediately resolve to Zumba or yoga or those kinds of things. And by no means I'm saying that that's bad for you, but after the age of 30, you lose 1% muscle mass every year, right? So, and that is for across all genders, right? So again, yeah, in men, like I mentioned, in women it's mostly weight gain, also how to manage their own routines, but also like PCOS, thyroid, iron levels, anemia is very common in Indian women. So these are the common patterns that I come across every day when I speak to working professionals.
Got it. You specifically mentioned that sleep is a major problem among the men. Do you see that pattern in women as well?
Women actually, yes, I do, but men are just on the higher side in
Okay.
terms of sleep. Yeah, yeah.
And why is that?
Majorly because men are like, because of the whole work thing, men are more stressed in general, I guess, and also the eating patterns. Men drink more, right,
Mm,
versus women, and there's nothing that messes up your sleep more than alcohol, right? So, and it's not like the day you're drinking, only that day sleep just messes with you, alcohol just messes around with you, so messes around with your sleep. So I think alcohol is one problem that I'd like to, also smoking. So these are the two things that I'd like to put across that messes up with sleep of men.
tell me about it, Sani. I mean, somebody who's been there, done that, and then changed, so I can completely relate to that part of being a man. So I want to be able to describe this person, let's say behaviorally or physically, right? From your experience of watching them very closely for many years, how would this lifestyle out of rhythm kind of a man or a woman look and feel like when you meet them? Describe this person to us.
Okay. So, say a man, firstly, I would like to just start with saying that um, life is happening to them. they're nothing is intentional, nothing is tracked. It's just they wake up and they're just living this life on a default mode. And most of them have given up. They have just they just wake up and they tell the story to themselves that, oh, this is the end of it. For the rest of my life, I'm going to wake up every day, feel pathetic because I've not slept well, go to work, make money, come home, go back to sleep, drink alcohol with my friends on weekend, and go back to sleep again. And it's the same spiral that is going to go on and on and on. And for women also, they've just accepted the fact that I'm going to wake up, I'm going to take care of my kids. If I'm working, I'll go to work, I'll come back home, I'll cook for my husband. Now people, I would just like to go a little off topic here, because people come at me on internet and they're like, oh, which world are you living in, it's not happening anymore. I'm like, do you live in India? And do you see, just because you're on an upper level now and you have better people around you, that doesn't mean that's not happening in India. That's like the story of still the story of 70% of the Indians of our country, 70% of Indians, right? And yeah, the she would come back home from work, take care of kids, and she would go to sleep. So nothing is intentional. Life is happening to them, and they have just accepted the fact that, oh, okay, maybe we'll do something for 3 months. I'll go to Zumba, or he thinks I'll go to gym, I'll get a trainer, I'll lose weight in 3 months. And then, yeah, it'll just keep happening. Nothing is intentional. They've just accepted the fact that this is what my life is going to look like. And they're just too comfortable with it. Like, they're like, okay, if it doesn't change, as long as like I'm not taking too many medications and I'm just, living the same life again and again, they're okay with it. They're very comfortable with it. And nothing they're doing is intentional, and everything is just on default. Wake up, do the same thing, go to sleep, drink, eat outside, and that is their life. And they've accepted that fact for themselves. They're comfortable with it.
Wow. I mean, the way you explained, I was kind of relating to it for myself a few years back, and also how the other persons might be feeling. I think a couple of things that you mentioned struck me really hard. One is the life is happening in a default mode. That is one part of it. And then accepting that this is how my rest of the life is going to be, while also not having much hope of a transformation or transition to some form, is a very hard thing to accept, isn't it?
Is it? It is.
So, if this is the kind of extreme of, let's say, the average person that you come across, how would you describe the person who's intentional, for whom the life is not happening, and then he makes things happen? Like, how would you describe the other person then?
Correct, correct. So, firstly, it all starts with, like, now this might sound very cliche that, oh, I know this already, but it all starts with making that your identity, identifying yourself as that person who does things, right? For example, like I said, people have to become too comfortable because they've made that particular thing that as their identity, that, oh, this is my life. I wake up, I eat whatever, poha, jalebi, or I eat upma. I don't eat protein because I don't have that option. And they're just too fixated on that it is not going to work for me because that is just not my life. So when you say changing, it all just starts with making that your identity, that, oh, I am the person who wakes up early and, finds time for myself and goes, work out. I am the person who consciously and intentionally takes care of maybe my protein intake, or I am the person who has learned to say no. Because when you live in India, I think more than anything, you need, as they say on Instagram, you need vitamin N, which is, learning to say no, because you will have to offend a lot of people. You will have to, say no a lot when you go out to social gatherings or even to your own family. Because I've learned it
Mm-hmm.
the hard way. I come from a Punjabi family, and when I started my own transformation, I would just say no. They would get offended. They would feel bad. They would tell me that, oh, if you eat once, nothing is gonna happen, which also just happened yesterday when I was at a family gathering. But I think up until you make that your identity, that, oh no, this is something that I do for myself because I am that person. I eat protein because I care about my health. I go to sleep on time and I leave my phone in another room, or I'm not on screen because I don't want to wake up tomorrow and feel cranky and, feel out of form or lose my focus. So up until you make it your identity and tell yourself consciously and intentionally that, oh no, I am that person, or I want to be that person. And yeah, nothing is going to change for you till you change, your identity, or till the way you see yourself.
You know what? It's very interesting that you mentioned a few keywords like identity and intentional change, because this is exactly what James Clear talks about in his book.
Yes, atomic habits.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and also Charles Duhigg in his book, The Power of Habits, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the more said about it, but the less people actually understand. So, what I also want to know, Sanya, is for people for whom this 9 to 5 is happening, life is happening, they've accepted the fact that life is going to be that way. I want to ask you, as a fitness coach, what is wrong with that lifestyle? Why should they change?
Uh, what is not wrong with that lifestyle should be your question. Like, everything is wrong. Right from the start, again, they wake up, it's the highest carb breakfast possible. There's again no sense of protein. We've not been given much protein education anyway living in India. We've
Yeah.
never had that. Our traditional food is very high in carbohydrate, be it like North Indian food, South Indian food, fried food. So it starts with eating a very, very high carbohydrate breakfast, and again, as a result, or most of them now trying to be healthy would immediately resort to like intermittent fasting or something like that, which also anyway would then lead to like binge eating later, or just having chai, which would then lead to having acidity later, because of the fact that they do not have. It's not like there's anything wrong with doing intermittent fasting. A lot of people do it, right? But it's just the lack of knowledge that they would do something. As they say, half knowledge is very dangerous, right? So they would do something just reading about that on internet, but they don't know what is going to happen later. So for example, if they eat a very high carb breakfast, there's a high chance, not high chance, their insulin will spike. They will feel more hungry later, and then as a result they would resort to again snacking or eating something that is even worse. Case number two, they would just have chai, and that would lead to acidity later, again having more tablets and all of that. Number three, they would do intermittent fasting, which would then lead to like snacking even more, or indulging into something that would not be good for them necessarily, right? And most of the time these corporate professionals, they have these canteens in their
Hmm.
offices, which has nothing more than samosas and all the fried food, which is not good for us anyway, right? So yeah, they would start with a very high carb breakfast, and then energy crashes in the middle of the day. Then again they come at home, and then again that 6 p.m., 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. time is again chai biscuit time. So they would eat like the unhealthiest snack possible. Then it's dinner time, and they would eat their dinner at about 10, 11 p.m. No activity, no walking after that. They would be on their phone, scroll, and then just go to sleep and then repeat. And then again, they would wake up with bad energy, cranky, sleep is not good, and then repeat, repeat, repeat.
Wow, that looks a bit too scary for me to hear. Okay, I guess we're going to go into more specifics now, Sanya. Give me a real example of a typical client before they come to you. And
Okay.
when
Okay.
what I also want to know is, do they come to you after things go wrong, or is it reasonably proactive?
Okay. So, yeah, 90% of them come to me when most of the things have gone wrong, because I mentioned that it's all compounded over all of these years. So, up until nothing very scary happens, they will not take that action, because I told you they've become too comfortable with it, right? So, up until they've had a health scare, or somebody in the family has had like a health scare, or I don't want to say it out loud, but these days heart attacks are very common. So, it's like, for example, a colleague or somebody they know have gone through something like that, who had a family, right? So up until they've had like a health scare, or something that they know of will, something that can potentially harm them in future, up until something like that has happened, they will just not think about themselves, right? So when they come to me, number one is energy is all messed up, right? Again, they have no energy to wake up in the morning, they have no energy to work, they get energy crashes. Their whole, the circadian rhythm is messed up, right? Sleep is messed up. HbA1c, cholesterol, CRP, inflammation, all of that is gone, right? Gut issues are bad, hair is falling, back pain. This is some of their physical health. Then again, mental health, again, it starts with, obviously they don't know how to resolve it. Kids are there, families there, they don't know how to play with their kids. Also, kids are fairly young when they're 34, 35, right? So they're worried, oh, I want to be there for them when they go to college or when they get married, right? Because I had the same conversation with a client the other day, right? And then want to be able to spend more time with their parents, or because parents are getting also old now, spend more time with their wives and all of that, right? So this is about in terms of their mental health, physical health. Yeah, energy is again messed up. So these are some belly fat, again, biggest things. They don't see, they don't like what they see in the mirror, right? Clothes don't fit better. They're not able to play the sport that they used to like playing with their friends: squash, cricket, badminton, paddle these days, right? So they don't like going out, they don't like going out to social gatherings because of the way people comment on them. And also their, again, their ability to not be able to say no. So they know when they go out, again, it's going to be alcohol. And alcohol is not alone alcohol. Alcohol comes with a lot of snacking on the side,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, this is the situation of a typical person that comes to me. So yeah.
Wow. And I mean, this is a, maybe I don't know if it's a tangential question. If somebody came to you new as a client and they want to consult with you and have the first call, are
Mhm.
you able to identify or sense what is probably not going right with that person just by talking to them or looking at them on a call?
In 10 minutes, in 10 minutes, back is hunched. They're not
Mm.
very confident in the way they're talking. Everything is just fine to them. Oh, that's fine, that's fine. Skin is dry, so I can understand that they drink like 1 liter of water. There's acne, again, hair is falling, and they're just not, I'm sorry I have to put it out like that, but it is what it
Yeah,
is,
yeah, go
right?
ahead.
right
Yeah.
right. And they're just not very confident. Like when I start with the series of questions, and as we go down that journey of me, kind of making them realize that okay, this has happened. And yeah, just like that little squeak in their voices, the underconfidence, all of that is just, it just, I can just make out in like 10 minutes that, oh, this person is just not doing well and they need help.
That makes perfect sense. So that gives us a clear direction to go into women specific angle right now, because that's the part of the next section that we'll focus on. You mentioned about women in their 30s, maybe 34, 35. That's the age segment that you predominantly work with. But we took the example of the typical married Indian household woman who wakes up, makes food for herself, her kids, and husband. What I also want to ask you is, do you also have a lot of single women who fit into this kind of archetype?
Yeah, they do. They do. Most of the single women, again, it could be then just dealing with these kinds of issues, PCOS, thyroid, and all of that has compounded over here. And it's just like not being able to take care of themselves, because just because they're single and not taking care of a family doesn't necessarily mean that their life is sorted. They're mostly struggling with sometimes some kind of relationship issues, or just some kind of issues with themselves, mental health issues, and all of that has again just like compounded over all of these years, and they've like put on great amount of weight and they seek help for that.
Got it. Cool. Fair enough. So, in one of your articles that I read, you mentioned that Indian women are nutritionally neglected. Why do you say that?
Because let's start with, where do I even start for that one? So again, high, super low in iron. Ferritin is
Yeah.
in the ground. Anemia, we have the one of the highest numbers of anemic women in our country. Again, PCOS, thyroid, compounding over years, not to forget vitamin D, B12. And all of this is so, the women's health in India is stopped at when the pregnancy ends. Right after that, nobody cares about them. Right before they would want to give birth to a child, it's like everything will be taken care of, their food, or if they're working out. And I actually recently had this conversation with the woman. She recently got married, and she wanted to conceive. And then I did sign her up as a client, helped her through her pregnancy, help her lose weight, work out in the way that would support her. And now when I talk to her, she's just back to square one, because she's like, oh, I don't have the time. And back when she reached out to me, it's actually her husband who booked the call with me, and be like, oh, can you please take care of my wife? Can you please help her lose weight? Can you please help her be in a good routine? And I do speak to her still sometimes, just one on one, me and her, and she asks for some suggestions and all of that. And she's just like, Sanya, it's just been downhill since I gave birth. Again, I'm sleep is messed up because the baby is like he's a toddler, wakes up in the middle of the night. Husband is mostly asleep because he has to go to work tomorrow, but it's just me taking care of the child. And then again, it's just broken 3, 4 hours of sleep. And then I wake up in the morning, I have to take care of the baby, I have to take care of house. And then nobody really cares now. Like all they cared for was when I actually wanted to conceive, because then my health was important. And again, now people would call me paranoid that, oh, which world are you living in? But when I say it with full confidence that this is still the story of 70% of India, and I stand by it. Like, you can't fight me for it. Like, I stand by it, right? So I think, yeah, that is, women are nutritionally neglected and they're just less taken care of again in their blood work. They have, again, PCOS, thyroid, like I've mentioned multiple times now. So I think, yeah, that's how I'd like to answer that.
Got it. So I have a couple of follow-on questions to what you just mentioned. When you said her health is completely neglected by people, is it the other people you're specifically talking about, or they themselves neglect their health after childbirth?
I think both. The family for sure, but also the fact that, uh, how do I explain this? Like, they're in a different family now. No matter how you say it, oh, it's her own family, in-laws or whatever. So she has that a little sliver of like, oh, how do I kind of bring it up? Or is it now selfish for me to bring this up? Is it now selfish to bring up my own health? Or, oh, would it be selfish if I leave the baby or I leave the family and I go to the gym? Would it be selfish to cook for my own self? Because most of the times we living in Indian families, whatever food is made, everyone eats that, right? And it's again mostly the high carb food that we spoke about, right? So according to them, they think that, oh, would it be selfish if I bring out something like this? Would it be selfish for me to take care of my own health? Would it be selfish for me to just, give 1 hour to myself and go to the gym? So most of the times they neglected themselves, and also family is already neglecting it. So yeah.
Is that the reason you had mentioned in your article that women generally ignore the early signs like fatigue and irregular periods, your PCOS? And is that probably the reason they
Yeah.
ignore?
Yeah, they it's mostly the fact that when I speak to women, they're like, oh, I don't know how to kind of bring this up in my family to my husband or to my mother-in-law or to just in my family, that I don't know how to tell them that, oh, hey, I need to work out, oh, hey, I need to cook differently for myself, or at least eat more protein or something like that. So sometimes, not sometimes, most of the times they feel that it is selfish for them to take care of themselves.
Hmm. That's a bit unfortunate that
It
they want to
is.
do something but they're unable to. That's a bit unfortunate.
It is.
That kind of then makes me think, right? Is it actually that they actually either care or they don't care, or is it the lack of awareness for women themselves to know what is going right with them or wrong with them? Do you see the lack of awareness as one of the reasons, or is it that
Yeah,
they're aware they're not able to do?
lack of awareness for sure, lack of knowledge, because again, like I mentioned, us growing up in India, we're not given so much of health knowledge. We are not, especially to women. Um, Strength training is something they're scared of for XYZ reasons. I'll get bulky, or just not knowing the correct forms, or just going to the gym and
Mm-hmm.
having that kind of inferiority complex, because it's still men's, like
Yeah.
it's still most of men, right? And so again, lack of knowledge, lack of awareness as to, they know that some things are happening with them. I'm feeling less energetic, I know something is wrong with my blood work, I know I'm eating more than I'm supposed to, I know I have no strength in me, but also I don't know what to do about it. Also, I don't know what it exactly is, what supplements I should take, who should I consult. I don't know. So they would just YouTube or now AI it. But again, it's just nothing too permanent or nothing they keep doing for a long time for themselves.
So it's more like random experiments with
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
they think it
totally.
works for them.
Yeah, something that their friend told them that, oh, this is something that you can do for your hair, so that is something they will try. Or this cream you can put for your skin,
Skin.
so that is
Yeah.
something that you will try. They will do the community Zumba or yoga, but and again, by no means I'm saying they're bad. Sure, dance classes all good. Even some of my clients still they tell me that, Sanya, sure, you've put us on a strength training plan, but we like doing Zumba. So their programs are programmed like 4 days of strength training, and then they can do Zumba. So again, there's nothing wrong wrong with doing Zumba,
Mm-hmm.
yoga, dancing if you enjoy it. But are you telling me that, it is better than strength training? No, never. It can,
No.
no, never.
It's actually quite interesting that you've now mentioned about hair, skin, acne, and other issues, particularly with, let's say, women to a large degree. So I remember one conversation with my dermatologist about 5 years back when my hair was thinning and my skin was not really great and I had skin tags as well. And then she said, most of the skin and hair is a mere reflection of what's going on inside your body and specifically your liver and your gut, right?
Correct.
She said, if you don't fix that, no amount of cream, no amount of L'Oreals and things can fix your hair or skin. Do you think people are aware of this, or the women who come to you, what do they come for? Do they want, let's say, vanity? Do they want to look good? Is that the main focus? Or are they really aware that something is fundamentally broken? The lifestyle
Correct.
out of rhythm is something that, do you think they're aware of that?
Correct. So, the same thing that you said, I think I've tweeted about it multiple times that, you have different fixes for everything, different fix for your hair. You would go to a dermat for skin, something for your gut issues and all of that. But it is also, again, just a reflection of what your body is going through, right? So, again, like I said, that is still a goal on the inside for women, because women do like looking good. Like, when I see myself, I want to look good. I want to dress well. I want to see clothes fitting well, right? I'm a woman at the end of the day and I want to look good. I want to be beautiful, right? And so when they come to me, most of them are obviously always just fixated on losing weight, clothes fitting better, and all of that. But also sometimes when I dig deep into the questions, they also do tell me that, yeah, it would also be great, that if I can fix my hair fall, or if I can, fix my skin and not have a lot of acne, um, be confident when I go out, when I go to social gatherings, right? So the primary goal is always just firstly to, look good and fit better into clothes, but then eventually, yeah. But also, I do try to make them understand, they're not aware. They're like, oh, I'll have to go to again a dermat for skin or whatever, for like a hair doctor, whatever that is called, right? And so they don't know that all of that is actually connected. So if they actually like eat better and they just take care of themselves overall, not only will they lose weight, lose belly fat and all of that, but also all the internal things, again, like hair fall, skin, all of that, periods, all of that will get fixed as well. So again, the primary goal is just looking good, but then eventually it all gets better once you start taking care of yourself.
Got it. I think that makes perfect sense, Sanya.